happening this weekend. It is the Oscars, right? And for my next guest, it is like Super Bowl Sunday for him. Joe Fortunato, film study professor, on board with us. Now, as you know, he joins us Fridays as we go to film school, and he's digging into his sports baseball movie since it's back to the Guardians week. But today, I wanted to invite Joe to the show because it's Academy Awards season, and I thought Joe would have a nice preview and look at the Oscars this coming weekend. So, Joe, with that being said, good morning, my friend, and how do you look at the Oscars this year? And I guess let's start right there where everyone likes to start, and that's the Best Picture Award.
Well, good morning, Ray. Good morning, everybody, and happy Oscar week, as we say in Film Fan Nation. Best Picture. Okay, let's just start at the top. The succinct sum up of this is it's going to be an Oppenheimer juggernaut. I have no doubt that it's pretty much going to roll through most of the categories. And if Oppenheimer weren't there, this probably might be the year Killers of the Flower Moon might have won. But Oppenheimer is there, and it's both a critical darling. It's also a financial success. It is done by Christopher Nolan, who's well liked and well respected in the industry. We'll talk about that with directing in a moment. So I don't, in Oppenheimer, and one of the things we do when we look at these things and predict things is we look at who has, this is award season, and I'm sort of using air quotes that you can't see, where there's all kinds of awards. There's Critics' Choice Awards, there's New York and LA critics, there's all of the various guilds and unions have their awards. So we look at who won those awards, and we can kind of get a sense of where the Academy voters are standing, because a lot of those Academy voters belong to at least the various unions. Obviously, critics are a separate bunch, but and Oppenheimer seems to have steamrolled through most of the Oscar season.
Oppenheimer getting a lot of run for sure. The Barbie movie was financially the juggernaut, very similar to Oppenheimer. But Barbie, for some reason, not getting, well, it's nominated, so obviously getting some buzz. But Oppenheimer has most of it, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of who's going to win, I think it's Oppenheimer. I know there was a lot of criticism that Barbie wasn't getting respected, but, it's got a bunch of nominations. So whether it wins any, that's a whole other conversation, I understand. But I think the media narrative that Barbie is being disrespectful is a little bit false, because there is I can't remember the count, but I think it's like 8 nominations. That's quite a few. And the big issue there seemed to be that Margot Robbie didn't get a Best Actress nomination, and Greta Gerwig didn't get a Best Directing nomination. And I understand the anger there, or the frustration, because both of them would have easily been worthy to put into those categories. I think especially Greta Gerwig. Nothing against Margot Robbie, but I think Greta Gerwig was closer to an Oscar caliber work in terms. I was going to say performance, but you don't perform as a director in directing. But then you look at it, people say, "Oh, well, the Academy doesn't want to nominate women directors." Well, there are women directors nominated, so that's not really an issue. And you look at all the nominees in the directing category, and you think, okay, well, if we put Greta Gerwig in, who comes out? Because they're all worthy. And that's sort of basically an overview of this whole season. This is a really strong year for movies. We look at all 10 Best Pictures, and each one of them is great in some form or fashion, and each one of them definitely deserves to have a Best Picture nomination. It's often the case that 2 or 3 of the 10 are kind of iffy, but I don't think that's the case this year. And that spills over into the other nominations like directing. And like I said, all of the directing nominees are totally worthy of their nomination. In terms of who's going to win, again, it's probably going to go to Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. He's steamrolled the whole preseason, and as I said, he's a well-liked and well-respected, and he's sort of the major director of our time. So I think this is his win for that.
Boy, Joe Fortunato is with us, film study professor, kind of giving us a sneak peek and a preview of this weekend's Academy Awards. You mentioned Oppenheimer, and the movie was great. The directing was great, as you mentioned, Joe, but also the performances. When you talk about Cillian Murphy, you talk about Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, all nominated in this thing for their roles and their performances. And that's what you said. It sounds like a big Oppenheimer weekend, but just terrific performances by those actors and directing and everything around it.
Yeah, let's talk about the acting roles. And I just watched Oppenheimer again this past weekend because I hadn't seen it since it came out in the summer, and I sort of wanted to refresh myself. And honestly, when I saw it in the summer, I didn't quite love it. I thought it was very good, but I don't think it held up to the hype. On second viewing, I was a little bit more impressed, actually, and I said, yeah. If this wins the best picture, I'm okay with that. In terms of especially in the acting categories too, I thought that is Cillian Murphy really worthy of an Oscar? And again, this weekend I said, yeah, kind of he is. Now when we look at the Oscar acting categories, our major barometer for that is the SAG Awards, which was just a week or two ago, and I was sort of sensing that there was an upswing for Paul Giamatti, and I kind of was thinking he might win that SAG award. But when he didn't, and it went to Cillian Murphy, that kind of cemented the Oscar for Cillian Murphy. So I definitely think that Cillian Murphy's going to win the Oscar. My personal favorite is Paul Giamatti. I think he did the best work of his career, and if there is ever going to be an upset, that would be him. But I don't think it's going to happen there. In terms of the actor in a supporting role, I think hands down, this goes to Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer. Sorry, Barbie fans. It's not going to be Ryan Gosling. I think Robert Downey Jr. walks away with this. Again, he won the SAG Award. And when I say that, not only does that sort of suggest who's going to win, but keep in mind that the actors are the largest branch in the Motion Picture Academy. So their votes collectively has the most weight. So if they voted him as best supporting actor in their union votes, it's probably pretty likely they're going to do the same for the Oscars. In terms of actress in a leading role, the person who's gone the whole season, winning all these pretty much hands down, was Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. And that's going to be a great story because she's going to be the first Native American probably to win that category. And there was some support really bubbling up recently for Emma Stone, and I kind of thought she might win the SAG Award, but she didn't. It went to Lily Gladstone. So again, I'm giving the nod to Lily Gladstone for the Oscar. If there is an upset, it's going to be Emma Stone for Poor Things. She was terrific. Actress in a supporting role, this is all Divine Joy Randolph from The Holdovers. She's won everything. I don't even think there's a competition before that she hasn't won. So I'd be shocked if she didn't win this as well.
Joe Fortunato, film study professor, giving us a preview of the Oscars coming up on Sunday. Joe, we have about a minute or so left. Anything you wanted to touch on as well coming into the weekend?
Well, there's 20-some categories here that we're not going to have time to talk about. But if you're looking to try and win your Oscar pool at work or at your party, on all the technical awards, if you're not sure, go with Oppenheimer. It's the likely winner in things like editing and sound and stuff. The sound is kind of interesting because one of the criticisms of Oppenheimer is you couldn't really hear the dialogue very well in the theater. And then the other one that's sort of the competition in that category is Zone of Interest, which is the quietest film in the bunch. But sound did have an important role in that narrative. So sound's an interesting one to look for. But again, if you are looking down ballot, as they say, and you're not sure, go with Oppenheimer. And the screenplays, that was where I thought Barbie might win as adapted screenplay, and maybe it should. But I think American Fiction is really bubbling up with some support. So don't be surprised if that one wins.
Joe Fortunato, of course, he joins us Fridays. We'll go to film school on Friday. We'll connect with Joe again next week as well to recap the Oscars coming at you on Sunday. Joe, my friend, as always, thanks for getting up with us. Great stuff this morning. We'll talk to you Friday morning.
Look forward to it. See you then.
All right. Joe Fortunato, film study professor, and he takes us to film school Fridays, but giving us an Oscars preview this morning.